Good evening, it's Tuesday night. It's our first ever pre-match special show. Inter Milan versus Arsenal in the Champions League. My name's El Smuggo.
My name's Jim.
And we are live for the next hour and a half at the very least to discuss all things Arsenal. We'll look back to the Chelsea game in the Carabao Cup first leg. We'll look to Saturday's game against Nottingham Forest. We'll look at the defeats again for Manchester City and Aston Villa, which obviously has prevailed us to go 7 points clear. And we will also be on the ball tonight in terms of team news and any breaking news that comes out from the San Siro as Inter Milan play Arsenal. But before we start, Jimbo, how are you, mate?
All good, mate. All good. I've been wrestling a little bit of illness today, but I didn't want to let you down. So I'm fully drugged up in all the pharmaceutical ways to make sure that we don't miss such a big show.
No, fair play to you, mate. Fair play to you, because I know you've been struggling over the last few hours, but you are here, you are live, and we're going to discuss all things Arsenal. Now, before we start, guys, Jim's been running a competition, which has been running for the last 7 to 8 weeks in terms of his Ask Jim segment. Tonight is the very last night where we've got the quiz set up for a winning ticket to an Arsenal game, which will be spun on this live show. We do have one more Ask Jim tonight, so we will go through all them questions. Whoever wins that will go onto the wheel, and then we'll decide who the winner is. So thank you very much, Jim, first and foremost, mate, for obviously putting that ticket out there, mate, because it is a big prize.
Yeah, I think so, and it should be a really good day out. And why we wanted to do this in the first place really was to, just to get in there and do something for the community, right? And a good mate of mine already has just shared the stream for us, mate. A very good, someone I love so much, a guy called Che Chesterman, who many might remember from getting into the final of the X Factor, and then my wife and I fell in love with him, and just begged him to sing at our wedding, and it was also the same day as his birthday. But when he knew that I was a Gooner, he did, and ever since then we've just been great pals, just because he loves the Arsenal so much. So yeah, what a hero, Che. Thanks for doing that, buddy.
No, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, well done for that. Look, we're going to go back to last Wednesday night and look at the Carabao Cup game at Stamford Bridge. First leg of 2 legs in the semi-final. Arsenal went there with a pretty patchy record in the Carabao Cup. Not won it since 1993. Went out in the semi-finals last year to Newcastle. Our last cup final defeat in the Carabao Cup was back in 2018 to Manchester City when a one Arsene Wenger was still manager. But Jim, going into that game, was you confident that we'd obviously see the victory through?
I mean, going into the game, I was always a bit apprehensive, just because I think we've had a bit of a rough time in cup runs under Arteta. I know obviously we won the FA Cup in a COVID year, but obviously since then he has he's since building his own squad. Really, knockout football has not been his saving grace by any means. However, in the last 2 years, as we're like in the latter stages of this complete transition, we just continue to get better and better and better. Just look at our Champions League performances last year, and then so I was not apprehensive actually this year around. Yes, all right, the 2 fixtures against Newcastle last year were a bit of a letdown, but again, they're at a period where we'd had a lot of injuries and the squad was depleted, but we added so well in the summer, and we've dealt with injuries quite well, really. To be fair, I think we're all frustrated, aren't we, Smugs, by how many injuries we've had? But actually, it hasn't affected the fact that we're in every competition. We're top of the Champions League. We're top of the league. and we're in every competition. So I felt like it was a fairly good time to play Chelsea. I know a lot of people get concerned about new manager syndrome, but they just lost Maresca. I like the fact that we got the positive side of the draw, which was going away first, because then you know what you got to do at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to go quite strong in that as well. And yeah, no, I was looking forward to it. I felt like it was a good opportunity for us to show that we were the biggest club in London.
Yeah, definitely. And like you see the Chelsea lineup as well. And obviously, there was no Reece James in the lineup, was there? Casado was obviously out suspended. Liam Delap, he was out with a flock virus, I believe, and Cole Palmer was out as well. So it was a good opportunity as well, with Chelsea missing a few key players, to go out there and put in a proper statement performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, he went pretty strong, didn't he? And you know, went strong in the midfield, definitely strong in the front three. You did what he had to do in defence, I think. And you know, I'm always positive, mate, about an Arsenal side scoring goals when Ben White's been on it. I think I've been quite bullish on this point since we started the show a couple of months ago. And you know, that kind of White, Saka, Yoka. I thought he would effectively be somebody, because I knew he overlapped Saka with Timber, likes to play in the invert and play in the pocket and kind of double up with Odegaard. But White is someone who likes to go beyond his winger. And whether it be Saka or Madueke, it's somewhat redundant. And I thought he might have a chance of unlocking Gyökeres a little bit, and we'll get onto it, I'm sure, as you review the game. But you know, in essence, he did.
Yeah, and it didn't take long, did it? 8 minutes in, set piece FC again, and one of your favourites, mate, Ben White, getting the header in 1-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that there's been a consistent with Declan all throughout the season is just the quality of his delivery. It's just ridiculous, to be honest, actually, how often he's hitting his mark now. And I don't know, I've seen a crosser of the football from a dead ball play. Well, probably De Bruyne, but like that, other than the last one from an English sense would be Beckham, you know. And he is just lethal. And yeah, Sanchez didn't look comfortable under the high ball, and it was a great opportunity to pounce. And there was a lot of hustle and bustle in the middle of the park. And you know, Ben White had a free header, and I think he looked somewhat startled when he kind of wheeled away and scored a goal, because he was 6-7 yards out and had a free header. But yeah, perfect start to the game.
Yeah, a massive start to the game, and I felt that the game kind of it got a bit edgy, didn't it, for the remainder of that first half? Like, I don't feel like we've imposed ourselves too much. Maybe just concentrating on obviously not conceding in that first half. In terms of going in at 1-0 at half time, was you happy with that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think of any chances that we really squandered in that first half, and I don't really think so. I think that after that, as we often do when we go up in a game, we manage the game in possession, and look to kind of unlock them in a very nonchalant way, more so than kind of ploughing pressure on. And it's a bit different in a 2-cup tie, more so to a 1-cup tie. That in essence, half time was a quarter of the tie away, you know, and it's half time now with one leg to go. So I felt that they managed the game pretty well. Yeah, we were in a strong position, and it would have been nice to sort of, you know, kick on and go and see what the second half unfolds.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, second half kicked off, and the big moment come, didn't it? Obviously, Saka, who should initially cross the ball in, which we see a very disgruntled Gyökeres after the goal had finally been scored, didn't put the ball in. But then, obviously, at the second opportunity, played it forward to Ben White, who then obviously put the ball in, which went under the goalkeeper. And Gyökeres was first to react in terms of a proper poachman's style finish, mate.
Yeah, I mean, every single week we're doing a piece on Victor Gyökeres at the moment, and it is definitely the player within the camp, probably along with Eze, that is splitting or dividing opinion. Maybe Odegaard as well, actually. And and it was tough because I mentioned to you before I get on to Gyökeres about the evolution of this Arsenal team under Mikel Arteta, and I think the first year or two was definitely a kind of cycle of clearing house for him. There were some players in the dressing room, Özil, Aubameyang, to probably name the most prominent, Pepe, who he wanted to move on from, even though they were so prominent in his kind of only real major trophy in his 6 years. Um, and we moved on from them. Then the next reign underneath that was to kind of bring in the two players from Manchester City, which everybody was very, very, very keen on, which was Zinchenko and Jesus. So I remember talking to a very good friend of mine, Sean, at the time, and saying that, I'm not as motivated by these two signings that maybe as the rest of the fan base, because one, I felt that Zinchenko was a bit part player at Manchester City and wasn't a regular, and I felt at the time 35 million we overpaid for him. And two, my biggest concern, as much as I think Jesus is one of the easiest footballers on the eye with his technical ability, was his ability to score big goals across the course of a season. I think his best season until that point was 14, when City scored 100. They got they got the 100 points that year in the Premier League, and then so we've kind of gone past that era now, because obviously Zinchenko's out the club. I think actually today, funnily enough, breaking news is that Arsenal are releasing him from his contract and they're taking a very nominal fee, and he's joining Ajax on a permanent transfer because Nottingham Forest have cancelled his loan. And if you want to be a bit of a dick about it per se, is it another bit of bad business? Because we paid 35 million quid for him. It looks like we're going to maybe get 3, 4, 5 million pound in return, so we're going to lose 30 million quid there. But anyway, c'est la vie. And then and then Jesus has been somebody who had just a fantastic start to his Arsenal career, got straight into the goals. Really, really good first 6 months, would you probably say, Smugs? Maybe first season. And then really after that, he's been sort of blighted by injuries. And when he's kind of come and gone, he's had dry periods, and he's sort of, he's ended up coming out and saying, hey, being a goal scorer is not really my thing. I have a lot more in my game. And he doesn't look like a natural number 9. He looks to me like he's an attacker that occupies a lot of space and wants to not be like a maverick, but he has a bit of a free role. He just wants to get on the ball and create, whether it be through scoring goals or creating space or whatever. And it's not really ever been a scenario where that has fixed our problems from replacing, Emery or Wenger's Aubameyang, or even Lacazette to an extent, or Giroud, who, as much as he split the fan base, scored 18 plus goals a season. And then obviously before that, you had the big three, which was kind of Van Persie, Henry, and Wright, who all scored 25 plus goals a season. So we've had that void, and I think probably arguably Jesus was replaced by Havertz because of his injuries, and Zinchenko's probably been replaced 3 times since. And I felt in that cup final, mate. Sorry, I'm getting to my point.
That's okay.
I felt in that cup semi-final the other night. A lot of people this season. One of the big things people are talking about is, well, look, Arteta's had to address it as well, hasn't he? About Odegaard being captain, and we went into the dressing room in the summer, and it was unanimous. Every single person wanted Martin to be captain, and and he's been in and out of the team. He's had 3 injuries. He had a big injury last year. A lot of people now are starting to be of the opinion that they thought that we were better with Eze in the 10 when he was injured, and we won however many games on the trot, and Gyökeres was scoring more regularly, and we weren't losing games or dropping points. And I felt in that cup semi-final, historically, mate. Again, I always refer to the fact that this is so good for you and me because we're very similar age. That when we've gone through periods of winning trophies what I would say in clusters, like regularly, like multiple trophies a season, or doubles, or just sort of winning trophies back to back to back to back. We've had a very, very strong captain, and someone who either leads a team or leads by example or does both. And the management team, the on-field kind of management team, which at the moment is Odegaard as captain and Saka as vice captain. I just thought they were both so flat in the first half of the game. And then you had Rice kind of pulling everyone together. Gabriel was all over the place. There was that kerfuffle in the tunnel, with Rice, and Gabriel was sorting it out. And there was the one thing I took out of that from watching that clip back where Rice is having it with Albert was not the fact that Gabriel was cleaning it up. Like, Odegaard was like nowhere to be seen. And there's just some things as a captain for me, whether it's modern day or not, it's just a bit inexcusable. I just feel like a captain has to be in everybody's business. I don't even really like, mate, sometimes when the club make quite a big thing, didn't they, with the new signings in the summer, that a player writes them a letter and they read it in the car on camera before they get to the training ground and start all of their media duties and stuff. I don't really like it, mate, to be honest, that Rice writes to the players. I don't think it's right, and if I was skipper of the team, I'd be keen to get your opinion. I don't think that would sit great with me either.
No, I think I totally agree with you. I think the responsibility there. Do you know what I mean? Look, in my opinion, and in my total opinion, I think there's definitely a debate at the moment in terms of obviously a couple of selections that would I have in my team. And look, the captain is one of them at the moment, if I'm being totally honest, in terms of his current performances. I just don't feel that he's the same player that he was 2 years ago either. Like, we're talking about a player, he's probably being asked to be playing a little bit differently. But when I watched that performance on Saturday, and I don't really want to go into Saturday, but I will bring up Saturday quickly. When I watched that performance on Saturday, I felt like that in some sense that he's lost it. He's lost what made him a leader. Do you know what I mean? He's kind of lost what made him that leader. He was the guy that done all the pressing. He was who done the forward press. He was the one who run every mole. But I watched him on Saturday, and I was like, you're not even breaking into the box half the time. There was at least 2 or 3 occasions in that first half that I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, Where's Odegaard? Where's Odegaard? And I'm seeing Rice, and I'm seeing Submendi, and I'm seeing him behind him. And then I'm thinking to myself, there's no surprise that Gyökeres is star for service, because actually the guy who's supposed to be playing in attacking midfield, or what we're supposed to believe is playing in attacking midfield, is not even breaking into the box. So there's no one really making that run centrally into the box to try and obviously break up play for centre backs to have other concerns that apart from Gyökeres. And I think it's quite clear that we're struggling at times to get people close enough to Gyökeres, what we're totally honest. Now, the one thing I will say on Wednesday, and I'll say it quite clearly, that goal, the third goal, was played through Gyökeres. And it showed exactly what he can do when he's got 3 or 4 players in the box with him. Do you know what I mean? They play the ball into him. He then plays it into Submendi, and then bang, goal. But you go into the game on Nottingham Forest on Saturday, and then we're back to square one.
But Smuggs, do you remember who played the pass into Gyökeres?
Am I right in San Marino?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And actually, recently, I've been a bit critical of him in the midfield position, because I worry about him a little bit on the ball. I just wonder if he's half a yard too slow. But as the season's gone on, and his match sharpness has just kind of progressively got stronger and stronger as the season's gone on, I've been sneakily more and more impressed with him as time's gone by in midfield, and actually starting to see like a player in him in midfield, more so than being concerned about him popping up with headers and pretending to be a 9, which I don't like. I think it's great that he's a box crasher, and he has a really good understanding of where to be at vital times to nick goals. I think that's an asset like somebody like Frank Lampard mastered, over his career. and as a midfielder, it's another skill. It's not a reason to play him in the false nine and be negative, you know. Anyway, that being said, you know, Marino plays on the half turn, and he has a really good chemistry with Zubamendi, and he knows kind of where to be, and he is okay just popping the ball like into the front man and moving the ball quickly in transition. And that is, I think Gyökeres cries out for those moments. And everyone who's been sort of slating his touch and saying he's clunky and the ball bounces off him and it's ping pongy and X, Y, and Z. Well, he's got three guys all over him. His first touch is brilliant, and he slips the ball around the corner to Zubamendi. And like in Zubamendi's first fainted shot, Gyökeres and Zubamendi have taken about 5 Chelsea players like completely out of shot, you know. Then Zubamendi obviously just goes uber flare and feints one more time, and then leaves himself a clear shot on goal. And his weak foot shot's very impressive and just bulges into the back of the net. But I'll come back to your point, because I know you want to talk on this point, and I just wanted to make this point before we talk about Odegaard and Saka a bit more as a management team. Was the second goal, and obviously you made the point that Bukayo. Obviously, everybody's putting the steals around, and you can kind of see that Gyökeres has made a good run. He's managed to get in between his fullback and his centre half, and it looks like a pretty straightforward pass for an elite professional footballer, and he opts not to do it. He sort of throws his hands up, but then he gets straight back into his shape. Saka slips the ball to Ben White. Ben White puts it in a danger area. Sanchez makes a hash of it, and obviously Gyökeres has a tap in. But and then obviously the aftermath of all of that is he somewhat pushes Saka out the way to celebrate with Ben White. And, I don't know how much to read into that, whatever. I think it's just spur of the moment stuff. And these players probably don't, they probably forget about it as quick as it happens. But it just seems to be highlighted more and more that the wide players, that because they're playing on the unnatural side of their favoured foot, i.e. Saka right for left and Trossard say left for right, albeit Trossard's quite two-footed, but Martinelli definitely left for right. They are not flashing the ball across the box as quick as the striker is getting into a position to be clinical, and then he's having to readjust his run and then get back into shape. And my argument with that, Smugs, is that I think we get frustrated as Arsenal fans watching Arsenal, especially with the back-to-back 0-0s in the league. And I think that there's an element of this now where they're going to have to look at it as an attacking unit, because with the inverted wingers always cutting back onto their stronger foot, they give that further split second to the defence to get their shape better, to be able to defend a cross that's in essence on the apex, diagonally coming into the box. And I think it straight away makes it easier to defend than the ball that goes beyond to the byline and then flashes across the box. Because actually, if you think about it just from a scientific perspective, like when you go to the byline and you're level with a post or just before it, and you hit the ball backwards and it's coming low and hard on the angle, right, across the face of goal, in essence, a striker is running onto it, and a defender is, he won't have his back to goal because that would just be an unnatural position to be in. So he's technically running towards goal with his body facing goal, and is where can he clear that to? Do you know what I mean? He's not going to try a back heel with a moving ball, way too dangerous. All he can really do is kick that ball straight, which equals own goal, high, which is corner, wide, which is corner, or if he gets really good contact on it, it might go out for a throw-in vertical with a 6-yard box. So whereby if you're attacking the ball and you come back on the invert and you hit the apex of the box and then you're hitting the ball on the diag, it skims off the top of their head and goes out for a corner. The goalkeeper has a perfectly good opportunity to come and punch it, or obviously the ball's coming towards you and travelling aerially, and you've got a much better chance of a defensive header, which will progress the ball like back up pitch towards the goal that the defender's attacking. So I think that's a lot of words there, but I think this is the reason why City are scoring more goals and Haaland's getting in the goals a bit more, because they are attacking. And actually, probably the best example of this was actually the United City game at the weekend. And you see United, mate. Did you watch that? I mean, I was watching it with you because
Yeah.
you was commenting and saying you were going off. It was hilarious, but United got the ball across the face of the City goal loads, and they just caused havoc to City. Doing that, hitting the byline and just ripping the ball across the face of goal. And I watched them just kind of put City over their knee a little bit, and I just thought it was just testament that, like, we're missing a bit of a trick here in our own team by not doing this.
Yeah, like I think so, and I definitely think like it's an area of our play. Look, I think there's quite a few aspects of our play at the moment which needs refining in terms of our attacking play. But I just get really frustrated, mate, because like you see the opportunities, don't you, time and time again, and it's just like we just don't play that first ball in. And look, I was watching something on X yesterday. And it was only a year ago. It was a year ago to yesterday, funnily enough. Arsenal played Aston Villa. Do you remember the 2-2 draw?
Yeah.
If you watch that game, yeah, right, both the goals that are scored from Arsenal in that game are from first-time crosses from Trossard.
Yeah.
And they're both goal striker goals. So Havertz gets one, where obviously it comes to the keeper. I can't remember who got the other one, but I was just sitting there. I was thinking, I don't see them passes. We're now a year beyond, and we don't seem to be hitting that ball first time into our striker. And I keep saying it that when you bring a striker into the club, you bring him into the club to play to his strengths. Like, this is the guy who's going to put the ball in the back of the net. Do you know what I mean? And I would be really, really frustrated if I was Victor at the moment, because he sees what can be produced to him on Wednesday night, and he come up with a really top performance himself. Then by Saturday, it's like we played like a totally different game because it's a league game. And by Saturday, we're back to square one, and we're not putting the cross in first time. He's getting isolated, and it's just so frustrating. And it's no surprise that you see that frustration come out of him. And to be fair, I'm surprised it hasn't come out a lot earlier, if I'm being frankly honest. Because, look, yeah, there is aspects of his game that he needs to work on as well. Of course there is. But it's not that he's not hitting the box, do you know what I mean? It's not that he's not making the right decisions. Like, there was an opportunity in the first half in the Chelsea game, and it's something that probably got missed. And it wasn't anything to do with Gyökeres. It was Odegaard. And if you remember, he was breaking down, and all he needed to do was play the first time ball into, I believe, Trossard at the time. And he kept hold of the ball, and he kept hold of the ball, and he kept hold of the ball. And then he lost it. Then the pass was shocking. And it was a simple, diagonal, 5-yard pass, and Trossard's through. And I'm just scratching my head, mate, at this moment, yeah, right, in terms of, like, what is the aspect of our creativity play? And why if someone like Odegaard, with the abilities he got, that he can't release the ball quick enough?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a chat with a really good friend. I told you, I had some friends over from the UK here the last couple of days, and I won't name him, but
yeah.
He played 400 games in the Premier League, and this would be an interesting one for the chat, actually, see if they can work out who it is. I think he's played 400 games in the Premier League, and he was an academy graduate at Arsenal when we won the double. So we've won a couple of doubles recently, but let's see if people work it out. And there's two things, interestingly. One on Odegaard. He spoke very highly of him and thinks Arteta loves him because he has the temperament, the ability, and the technical aspect to dictate the pace of play for any circumstance that the manager sees fit, whether that be maintaining possession, turning the ball over, operating in transition, gaining territory, or obviously working in counter transition when the ball is required to move very quickly and it's popped around, like pop, or tiki-taka or whatever the model. And he believed that in the manager's eyes, Odegaard will be doing absolutely everything that Arteta wants. Plus, obviously, he very intensely kind of operates the front of the line in the high press and puts with Gyökeres puts the centre half under a lot of pressure. So I found that very interesting because I think to watch with maybe my untrained eye in comparison, he looks flat to me, Odegaard. I think he has had like an amazing half against Villa, and has had like flashes of looking a bit like his old self. But I I don't think his role has evolved into looking more like a natural number eight, like coming back into like the Bernardo Silva role as he's getting a little older and he can impact the game at both ends of the pitch. I think what's most notable about his defensive duties in his own half is he's very, very conservative when going into contact in the 50-50. And I know you've noticed that as well. But that for me, to answer that one, is just abundantly obvious that he is very, very apprehensive about another injury with the fact that Norway may play in the World Cup for the first time in 3 decades, and he wants to be there to captain them. Che said Ray. It's not Ray Parlour. No. Good effort. Bit younger, Che, and that's a problem because like it means he can't do the defensive duties, and I think he could release the ball a lot quicker, put Gyökeres in the pocket. I've always said to you, my opinion on this, before I say the second point of what this good mate of mine, ex-player, has said, is I don't understand why we play what I would say a risk-off strategy in the fact that we retain the football for as long as we do and don't take any risks in the last end of in the last third of the pitch. However, we seem to hold on to the ball along the back four, invite the press on, use the goalkeeper an awful lot, and then sometimes draw our own goalkeeper into making a mistake, whether he kicks it out or whether it's a bad contact with a kick or the ball turns over quicker. And I find it odd that we won't make passes in the final third that potentially could put our striker or our attackers or our wingers in one-on-one on goal, but we will play around with the ball at the back, continuously utilising Gabriel Zubimendi, Saliba, and those three, bang, 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 sometimes Rice, and then Raya. And actually, if the opposition turn the ball over in that part of the pitch, it could be lethal against us and we can concede. But we won't do it in the final third where it's incredibly hard for them to score from 70 yards out. That just doesn't math in my head, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah.
The second part...
Go on. No, you carry
on. The second part of what he told me, which maybe would be like the last clue for the listeners as to who this mystery person is he has coached Gyökeres when he played in England. And I said, look, mate, I'm a fan. I like the look of this kid. He's quick. He looks like a killer instinct finisher. He's such a natural finisher and like what I would call like a pure ball striker. He just looks like like you always say, mate, when you've watched him pre-game in pre-game warm-ups, like the ball stays hits the back of the net, when he's doing drills or warm-ups and stuff. And he's very fast. But what he told me was just so telling. He goes, mate, I'm telling you, the boy will come good. He is so immersed in his profession that he will hate that like he's not scoring more goals, and if there is any negativity around whether he's good enough or not, he will put more pressure on himself than any fan on the planet in order to be at the level that's required for him to operate at this level. He's had it quite tough. This is quite interesting, and I know this surprised you. He stayed in a hotel for the first 6 months of his Arsenal career. He's not in a house yet, and that can be a little bit unsettling because just living in a hotel is just not the same as having a home. I find that very bizarre, but I I'm not sure if that's anything to do with his ongoing case in Sweden over the sort of debacle with his agent before. Never really had like a proper injury before, and is one of the fittest footballers he's worked with. So when an injury would have been slightly discomforting for him and would have probably been something new to learn. But more often than anything, he just said like he just will not let himself fail. He will do everything. It will be a dream for a manager. They'll have to slow him down in training because he'll want to do double sessions every day. He's one of the hardest trainers he's ever seen, and they'll be telling him to stop. And actually, they'll know exactly how he scores more goals, and they'll be working on it in training. But the manager will wait as to when to want to unlock that. And the second half of the season, which is really interesting, when defenses start fatiguing and teams have had a lot of load, he will come into his element because it's very rare that he won't be one of the fittest players in like all the tests, and he can go for like 90 minutes a match and 12 months a year. And in the back end of the business end of a season, when people are starting to tailor off and fatiguing, the games will open up a little more, and they'll play right into Gyökeres's hands, and he thinks he'll be quite lethal in those scenarios. But when he left his club and they watched him go off to Coventry, they all thought he would be, he'd go there and do great things, and he went and won the Golden Boot. And then when they saw him go off to Portugal, when they caught up with him, he stayed very humble and just like munched up goals basically, and there's like no surprises. So everybody who's ever worked with him just thought what a lovely kid he is, and just and just will hate the fact that he hasn't answered everybody's questions about him, and we'll be working on it more than anyone to kind of get into everyone's good books. And I just thought like being in a very fortunate position just because I had friends here and we were out playing golf and was able to hear that. It was just a nice thing to be able to share with everyone. And actually, I've always thought, and you've always thought, Smuggo, that we can't really critique him until we've seen him miss a catalogue of chances that we think we've seen maybe Jesus or Havertz miss, to turn around and say he's not the guy, he's not clinical enough. I just don't think that he's had a load of chances, like clear-cut chances, where he's just sort of shown he's not got killer instincts in front of goal,
Yeah. No, obviously, thanks for sharing that. It's obviously good to hear that. I don't know if anyone's watching, but actually, Bodo are 2-0 up at the moment against Manchester City in the Champions League after 24 minutes. So, yeah, turn up for the book there. So, funny enough, as we talk about Man City, let's go into Saturday in terms of the Man United-Man City game. I know you've kind of obviously probed on it a little bit in terms of how United got at them and all that, but in terms of Manchester City, for me, right, don't get me wrong, they made 2 absolute cracking signings, which will embed well in the future for them. But I look at them defensively at the moment, Jim, and I just think you're going to need more than Mark Guay to get out of this situation. And look, they're already 2-0 down tonight, obviously conceding 3 goals against.
Is he playing, Smugs? Is he? Are they throwing him straight in?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I can find out for you. But
look at this. This is the first time we've got live football on the show. This is fucking mega.
Let me just have a look. Let me just have a little look. So no, he's not in the team. Obviously, look at that defence. You can understand why they're losing 2-0. Nico Riley, Elaine, Huzanov, and obviously Nori at the back. So I look at that back 4, and I look at, okay, you put Mark Guay in there, but it's not going to fix all the problems, is it, at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I've been actually very impressed that Semenyo has got straight in the team and actually added another gear to that attack, because they've got an already incredibly impressive attack, and it's quite. As a businessman, I kind of rate how cutthroat Pep is. But, they bought Marmouche and he was mental. The first 6 months he had at City, he just went and done like mad numbers and scored like great goals as well and got in the assists. And they've just replaced him like a year and a half later with Semenyo. And obviously they give him a start against Exeter. And what a nice game to bed him in. I mean, I actually look at things like that and think so smart. When we were all desperate for Gyökeres to get a goal, I thought Portsmouth was the right game for him to play. The start, Semenyo against Exeter scored 10, he gets a goal and an assist, and his confidence is just absolutely, sky high. And he went into his second game and got in the goal straight away. Obviously, they got humbled a bit at the weekend, and Man United put them to the absolute sword. But I don't think they'll ever struggle to score goals in a Pep Guardiola team, but there are proper problems at the back, and I agree with you. Until they get players fit, and then a structure around. They're still going to have a centre midfielder playing right back in Núñez. Diaz will come in, I guess. Like Nico O'Reilly's had a brilliant season, so I don't know what the difference between O'Reilly and Gvardiol will be. And then I guess it will be Gay with Gvardiol or Diaz, But do you still think that people can score goals against them? The way they play, and the fact that he's playing like a 4-1-4-1, and he's playing 4 attackers in that midfield one is. I know Rodri's mega, but it's a lot for him to do, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is a lot for him to do. And I just look at their bench at the moment, Man City as well. 6 out of the 10 players, I don't even know who they are. And that's quite incredible when we think about Man City of old in terms of the squad that they used to have. And I think it's gone on the wayside. Like, don't get me wrong, he has spent a lot of money on players, and he has brought a lot of players in. But it just seems to me that actually at the moment, the players that he did bring in, like you said, like Mamouche, for example, hasn't kicked on probably ever since that penalty miss in the FA Cup final, if we're being totally honest. And you look at the team as such, and it's pretty much, I'd say, like I look at who's been in that team for a while, and you got Rodri, Haaland, Foden, and I think that's it. If I'm being totally honest. That's pretty much it. Everyone else is either young or new or been newly brought over the last year or so. But yeah,
Haaland obviously is in that team. Diaz has been in and around that team.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it. It's just like literally midfield, like Rico Lewis, Rodri. Don't get me wrong, Cherky, I think is going to be a terrific player.
He's
really
mustard.
Like him. Yeah, really like the look of him. Reinders, Haaland, and Foden. So I look at that team at the moment, and I don't see like them potentially winning. Obviously, 16 out of 16, definitely can't see that happening. But at the same time, we know what Man City are like when they start kicking into gears and start obviously playing football. And this is the piece that I'm going to go into now with the Nottingham Forest game. Like obviously, we see the game. Man City got decimated to pieces, and you thought, you know what, this is the prime time for us now to go into this game really motivated after seeing how much United did destroy City, and go and get 3 points. And I'm not. Do you know what? Right, I'm not. It's not the result that disappoints me on Saturday, because actually the point could provide to be a good point at the end of the season. Is yet again the performance and the attitude of going into the game, and the application that we showed during the game. I think that's what's really disappointed me more, if I'm being frankly honest, because we had a great chance. Don't get me wrong. I do think Nottingham Forest are in a little bit of a fake position because of what they did at the start of the season in terms of managers, and I think Forest are a better team than what a 17th place league position probably shows. Look, they took points off Liverpool both home and away last year, so Liverpool won the league, not beating Nottingham Forest. So that pretty much tells you part of the story. But for me, it was the application again in the game. Do you know what I mean? Like the drive in the game, like taking the odd risk or two. Do you know what I mean? Like I just felt in that whole game that we was never ever going to score. And I brought up something last night quite interestingly. Mikel Arteta has struggled against Sean Dyche throughout, Arsenal manager. And if you look at all the games between Mikel Arteta and Sean Dyche, there's only pretty much one goal in it all the time. And I think there's at least 3 or 4 0-0s in that. So has Arteta got to do better in terms of certain managers in terms of breaking down their style of play, and adapting to it.
Well, I think this is another thing I spoke to my good pal about, and I asked him because he's captained 200 plus games in the Premier League, and I said, mate, out of interest, right? When I used to play football at a reasonably decent standard, you rock up on a Saturday, 2 o'clock. We used to kick off because you had to beat the light then because you had no floodlights, and I was like, when it's like 1 degree and it's a bit moody, and the standard of football's tosh, and it's punting the balls are rock hard, no one really wants to get up and header them, and you need to lift everyone. And he was like, mate, it's no different when you go and play with pros, and now the game's so global. The last 15 years in the Premier League, these guys, a lot of them have come from Spain and Portugal, Iberia, South America. They have never played in like sub 5 degrees before, where like you stand there and you're breathing heavily and there's smoke coming off your forehead, and you put your breath out in front of you, and it's a great big puff of smoke, like someone's vaping next to you. They're not up for it, and you're in a dressing room 5 minutes beforehand, and you've got 40,000 emotional fans out there crying your name who've come there for 3 points, and it's shaped their week. I'm having to talk to like young lads and say like, I just need an hour off you, then we'll get the gaffer to rotate around. Like, you got to raise it. Like, I know you don't want to be here, ain't the right weather, you got your gloves on, etc. And he said the standard of football and the performance and things like that drop around the winter. Like, it's not uncommon. Like, it's even worse in training. But even on match days, you've got to find a way. And games like that, Forest, where it's like it's an evening game, it's 2-3 degrees. I think the same with the Chelsea game, or the game before, was it maybe Liverpool, where the weather was really bad and the wind was just like swirling like nuts. And the standard just comes down a little bit. But I tried to answer this point earlier with his opinions around Odegaard, which sort of answers your opinions on Arteta. And if the gaffer is keen on just looking at the opposition, he's assessing the other results potentially and the position he's got in the league, and maybe it is that he's deciding to set them up with the narrative of, don't lose first and then try and win later. Or if we don't concede shots on target, it's impossible for us not to lose the game. Then we might have less chances in the game. We've just got to be uber clinical in those chances. And we had, I think, probably 2 or 3 half chances. I think Gyökeres got away from Morello and, got a shot off, and the defender made an insane block. Saka pulls an incredible save out of Sells. Marino had that header that maybe you could have done a little bit better with. And that was it, And yes, I think as a fan base, we want to be entertained a little bit more. And it's easy to make an argument that if we have 15 shots on goal, 5 are on target, there's a much better chance of one going in. But at the moment, when they've had like such a heavy load over December and January, and there's been so many games, and we're still in 4 tournaments, which is a bit new for some of these players, then maybe he's just trying to consolidate a little bit and just like not go backwards, and he's okay with the draw. But yeah, the Liverpool game, I can kind of understand it a little bit. Forest away, 17th in the league, hadn't won at home in 10. It's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, it definitely is. One other thing that I did notice over the weekend, apart from Chelsea, was actually the 3 League Cup semi-finalists pretty much struggled over the weekend. Now, the difference between Chelsea, I'd say, to the other 3 teams is obviously, firstly, they played at home, both games. But secondly, obviously, all their big players come back and they're arrested over the weekend. Do you feel that potentially the intensity of the League Cup semi-finals played a bit of part in terms of performances over the weekend?
I think just in general, I think we've already played like 32 games this season, something like that. I think we've cleared 30. So it's just a lot of football. It's very regular. I think we played like 10 games in December, or we had 9 in January, and it's just it's just a lot of football. And and again, you're getting pernickety, but it's difficult when we're top of all these things actually to pick holes, but we just get. I do think he could have rotated better. I think that he could have made subs slightly earlier. I think I think that other strikers could have maybe started games, and Gyökeres could have been perceived as this finisher, because I think he will be more lethal in the last 30 minutes of a game, because a game opens up, and Forest will. I think Forest came out in the last half an hour and actually tried to put it on us a little bit. And I think that situation would have been better for Gyökeres there to play over Havertz or a Jesus more so than the other way round. I think sometimes like we could maybe make a slightly more attacking bias substitution. I know he brought Eze on for Zubimendi with like 8 minutes to go, but it's just a little bit too late.
Yeah.
So, but this is what my pal was saying to me, and I sat there and had a beer with him and was just sort of chewing the fat, and I was spouting all these things off like as like a very passionate Arsenal fan. He was like, mate, like Arteta will be happy with he'd have seen it that they drop points. He'd be only really focusing on City. He will be of the mindset that if he finishes above City, he wins the league. No disrespect to Aston Villa, and they lost. And if he doesn't lose, which means he gets a point from a draw, like he's taken another point out of him. It's another game week in the bank. So I don't think it's anything necessarily that we want to hear, and like I say, we would like to have won the game, but we did step forward. So, but I think coming into this weekend at home, it will be. I think and some of the chat are already talking about Man United under Carrick now. At Manus believes that it's going to be hard, but Carrick gives Man United a really good chance. I don't know that we've seen enough football under Carrick just because they've played 90 minutes against City, and Bruno had a worldie, but I don't know that fixes Man United in all of its glory. But if they come and have a go at us and play out like that, I think a few players in our team will lick their chops. But I do think that we'll have to score at the weekend at home against United to not lose the game.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be the case as well. Like any game against United, as usually is a very tough game. Do you know what I mean? Like I think last year's game under the lights, where we beat 2-0, was probably one of the first games where actually I sat there and thought United ain't got anything to offer. But obviously they'll play a totally different style now to what they would have played coming with Ruben Amorim. And look, they've got a big performance under their belts, but I'm totally with you. Like one big performance doesn't cover the cracks as such. Do you know what I mean? Like they have got a lot of players coming back from injury as well. Rest assured, obviously, they haven't got to play during the weeks because obviously they're not in no cup competitions. But I look at this United game and I think it's a massive, massive moment for us, if I'm being totally honest. An absolute massive moment for us on Sunday. We can get a really positive result Sunday, then it can kickstart us. It has been a challenging couple of months in terms of the defensive injuries that we've seen as well. Like it's been ridiculous, and I've been self-critical on players. Timber's come under a little bit of flack for me for the last few weeks, but there is the other part of me that actually thinks, Jim, that this is a guy, right, that's been pretty much overplayed because he's had to be overplayed. He's gone centre back when asked. He's gone to left back when asked. And look, don't get me wrong, he can defend like a left back. Problem with him at left back, I just don't think he offers nothing going forward whatsoever, and I think that's been a big issue over the last couple of games, and you can see why California has been missed. But I do think it's a big moment on Sunday. I think if we can get our left backs back, we can get a comprehensive performance. Because for me, it's about the performance now. We need a big performance, and I know we got a half at Aston Villa, but it was only a half. It weren't the whole game. We was pretty pony in that first half, and I'll still say, and Arnold doesn't go off injured, I'm not really sure that game would have finished 4-1. I think we'd have won it, but I just don't think it'd been 4-1. So I look at Sunday, and I think, look, they're going to come and they're going to be confident after what they did to City. But if we want to be champions, and I'll say it again, we need to start acting and behaving like champions and putting in the performances like champions. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. Love all like the tight 1-0s because you're going to need them at some point. But at some point, you do need to go out there and behave like champions and perform like champions. I don't think you can just keep getting away with like sitting on 1-goal leads. Do you know what I mean? Or relying on 0-0 and you're going to get the goal like in the last 20 minutes because it can go either way. So for me, Sunday, it's a big, big game. And it's no bigger than Man United. And when you look that we've got Leeds away the next week, I don't want to be going to Leeds with a negative result because actually that ain't an easy game either. Like Leeds have, if you watch Leeds this season, they were unlucky against Manchester City at Man City. They conceded, I think, in about the 93rd minute to lose the game. And they've had some really, really top performances at home as well. So that's not an easy game as well. So these next two games, I don't think you can just rely on not performing and winning the games. We need to go out.
I don't think you can name an easy game in the Premier League at the moment. I can't think of a single fixture which I just think looks like stay in second gear and win by a couple of goals. I just don't see one.
I do think though we're one of the only teams that can be in second gear and win a game at the moment, and it's interesting you say that.
And I think in answer to your point, we are doing that. You know, where you're sort of saying like we can't keep running through these games and 0-0s and 1-0s and
no.
Like so, the way I compare it to for anyone who's listening who can resonate with Formula One, and this is a conversation with my pal. He gave me the analogy, and I'm just putting a bit of a spin on it. If you imagine a Formula One race, you have periods throughout the race where you're talking to your race engineer, and like you can put the hammer down, and like you know, and you just stick in some like really hot laps, and build your way into a position where you're like leading the race, and then at that point, because you've maybe chased someone down and you've been in someone else's turbulent air, you get a bit more graining on your tires, and then you get into a position where you've gone a bit heavy up front, and then you've got to manage your tires because you're outside of your pit. You're outside of your pit window. So I would say at the moment when we've gone through such a heavy fixture load in December and January, mate, this illness is getting me now. When you've gone through your like a really heavy fixture load in December and January, we're now managing our tires per se, you know, and trying to like climb on this lead and make sure that we're not losing lap times to to people that are challenging us for the title. And the last 3 weeks, in essence, if you look at the Premier League as a 38 lap race, we've just been able to mirror or slightly better our opposition's lap times. It's not pretty and it's not nice to watch and it's a bit boring, but we're getting a bit closer to our pit window. And within those 3 weeks, what we have done is got 3 weeks of fitness into Havertz, 3 weeks of fitness into Jesus, 3 weeks of fitness into Dauman, Calafiori, Hincapi, and not lost ground on the opposition. And all these guys, Mascara now getting back into squad. All these guys must be coming close to full fitness and we're nearly close to a full squad. And all of a sudden, mate, it's going to be very, very soon where you're going to see a squad on a Saturday, and you're going to be thinking, fucking hell, like X person's been left at home this week and they're not in the 20. And that is going to, you know, someone was talking about Eza and like how maybe Arteta's mismanaged him, but like no previous season had he ever played 22 games or something at this point in the year, and he's already featured in 27 for Arsenal, and or 27 for club and country, sorry, and he hadn't gone past 22 before. And now he's had quite a significant rest if you think about actual active on-pitch minutes. He's only played about 250 in the last, since October when we beat Spurs. And he could be like really, really clinical and like super fresh going into like the business end of the season where we need to win games. and he can allow to rest Odegaard a bit more and rotate him. So actually, I'm trying to hold a bit of a candle for this ideology that he is rotating kind of key areas on the pitch with his squad, and actually still, we're as fans, we stay very much in the moment, and every game week is a cup final for us, and it kind of determines whether we think we're going to win it or we're not going to win it. But we're only in January, and the season finishes in May, and that's like 120 days away.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind you play every 4 days, there's like fucking hell. There's another 25, 30 games left in this season. There's like a long way to go,
Oh, there's a massive long way to go. And when you look at the fixtures, like you said, like every game, look, Man City got Wolves Saturday, and I actually think Wolves are massively improved to where they were a few months ago. Do you know what I mean? So I look at this league, and I think this is one I'm saying that I just don't see anyone consistently putting that run together. I think we are probably one of only 2 teams who could have the capability of putting that run together. And I do feel that if and when we get our left backs back, we'll be in a much better position for it. Now, in terms of the Eze, obviously, conversation you've just had, like I found it quite interesting talking to a few of my mates who are Palace fans, and they were pretty much like he goes very much in and out of the season, and in the colder months, his performances do kind of dip a bit. So, I like you said, I think that there's much scope that actually a fit and fresh Eze going into those last 2-3 months could be absolutely vital for us.
Mate, so important. And I think you'll see him start tonight, and I think he'll kick on. I really, he just, even from that little video, if anyone's watched it on Arsenal.com today about inside training and they're doing shooting drills, he looks happy and settled and sharp, and he's got loads of mates at the club, and he's had 6 months himself there now, and there's so many media responsibilities and things like that in the first couple of months of like joining a new club for such a high profile signing. And like now he's probably just into a bit of a scenario where there's a new transfer window, so everyone's talking about other people, and he can just like really get into his stride and and kick on. And historically in the Premier League, he's always done great numbers and taken control of games, but he is a bit of a maverick player, and you kind of get one or the other. He either has a game where he really affects it, goals and assists moments, or he's trying to create something and it's not coming off, and people think he's flat and he's not. We're so judgmental as an eclectic fan base of football in general, whether you're an Arsenal, United, City, Liverpool, Wolves, West Ham fan, whatever. So, we judge so much in the moment, and we don't allow any time whatsoever for bedding in. The stuff on Gyökeres about living in a hotel, and his agent got held to ransom about the deeds on his house in Sweden, and then all of the nonsense about Sporting letting him go over €1 million, and he's kind of living in Sweden, and someone else is in Portugal clearing his house out, and all those things. Like, if anyone's owned a property before, and they've gone through a house sale, and it's all like, there's loads of kerfuffle, and lawyers are calling you, and agents are calling you, and all this stuff's going on. Like, it's just aggro. It's just like my wife calls it agmin. Because it's just things just need to, like, you fall off your stride a bit, Smugs. I'm sure you've had scenarios like where maybe you've got something going on in your personal life, and you're like, I'm not quite on my game at work at the moment because I'm focusing on this in my personal life, or the other way around, like, oh, I'm nailing it at work, but like, my wife's giving me a load of bag. I've not taken her on a date night recently. You're just trying to manage the balance, So you have to remember, like, they're human beings, and actually, that it's I normally come into these things and go ballistic about the way we're playing and stuff, but it was very humbling to spend like a few hours with a pro who's played 400 games and like actually listen to how normal they are. And I kind of forget. I mean, I've spoken to him loads of times, and he's very close with Declan Rice, and he talks to me about Deck all the time, and how calm and chill he is, but how desperate he is to win trophies at Arsenal, but like they actually talk about all these things about how human they want to be and whatever scenarios going on, and like having family and kids and like wives having problems with their own pregnancies. And like, I think we sometimes forget like footballers don't have those things. Like we just assume that they don't have human things go on. Yeah, I think we're fine, mate. I really want to see him rotate tonight. I've got an inkling. I had a message earlier that he's putting quite a strong team out, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Bearing in mind we're super close to getting a live 11. What do you want to see tonight, Smugs?
What do I want to see tonight? I want to see a big 3 points first and foremost. But all jokes aside, I want to see. I do want to see a good side out because look, I don't think you can go there and not put a good side out. You're going to one of the great European clubs. You know what I mean? In Inter Milan, look, they were the Champions League finalists last year. Let's not forget that. They had the pedigree to get to the final, which we sadly just missed out on. Look, they did lose to a great PSG team, but I want to say I don't expect much change in terms of defensive options because I just don't think there's anything there that you can change. He might play Skelly at left back tonight and give Timber a rest. That could happen. But I look at the rest of it. Will he risk Mascara? Not really sure. It would be ideal to have rest one of the centre backs, or even if you just give them 45 minutes each. Do you know what I mean? Just to kind of get through the game. But in midfield and attack is where I would be making the changes. Like Kai Havertz for me has to start tonight. We need to get minutes under him, and I think look, the cup games this week, next week, and then the week after, it was the second leg. I think it's an ideal time for Havertz to start really picking up on his fitness, getting some match sharpness under his belt. So I would play Havertz tonight. I've got a feeling he's going to play Saka. I've got a feeling he's going to play Saka tonight. I wouldn't. I'd play Madueke again because I just want to keep Saka fresh for Sunday. And do you know what? On the left hand side, like I'd actually go Jesus. I'd play Jesus out there tonight. I thought Martinelli and Trossard were both poor on Saturday. I think just leave them both on the bench and let them come on in the last 15, 20 minutes. We've seen what they can do in Europe when they come on. But he does like Martinelli, don't he? And I can see him starting him tonight because obviously he'll want to utilize Martinelli on the counter attack. So probably will go Martinelli. Then I look at the midfield and I think this is where he might surprise us. Like you said, he might go stronger than we think he will. Now I think Eze has to start. I think he starts either Rice or Subamendi personally. I think he does. I think he really does. And then maybe Mikel Merino.
Well, I was thinking Norgard will play, surely, in a six.
I don't know about tonight. He might. I would play him tonight, but I've seen it with Arteta before in games. You think, he'll rest both of them now, and then one of them plays in defensive mid, and he rests the other one. I'll definitely rest Mendy tonight. I would rest both of them.
You know who I'd rest tonight, mate? I'd rest Ben White tonight.
What, you'd play Timber, would you?
I just think Ben White is like, he's been so effective for us recently and has brought out the best in the right winger. Also, in elements, brought out the best in the number 9 and adds a lot to our attacking presence on the right flank. But like asking him to play every 3 days, like for weeks and weeks and weeks in a row, I'm just not completely convinced physically that he can do it anymore. And he needs, we asked him to do it a little bit in the last phase before Christmas, and he went down again for a couple of weeks with, I'm not sure if he had fatigue in his knee or what the injury was or a niggle or whatever, but he had to be rested again. And I do think that it's a perfect opportunity for Miles to play left back and Timber to go back to right back, and to see some rotation in the centre halves, either Gabriel or
could you see Norgard
or Saliba steps out.
Could you see Norgard playing centre back again tonight?
No, I don't think so. No, he's got to play in midfield, mate. Surely, like he's just got to play in his actual position.
I'm just not sure. Like when you say that Arteta's like, it could be a surprise. Arteta goes strongly. Straight away, I just think he's playing one of them DMs. He's playing one of them DMs.
He will play one of them, I think. Yeah. I mean, Zubimendi just keeps putting minutes in, doesn't he? But
I think if it's anyone, he'll play Zubimendi tonight because he'll want to have someone controlling the game. If he plays out of the two, I think it'll probably be Zubimendi, but it could be pretty much it again, like for like. That one does like 60 minutes, the other one does half hour. I think he'll try and manage the minutes tonight as well as he possibly can. But there's some great opportunities out there tonight, as you say. Like Havertz coming back, Eze needs a massive performance. Do you know what I mean? And Jesus needs to start contributing. I was disappointed with him on Saturday as well. I'm very disappointed with him on Saturday. I just don't think he made any impact whatsoever into that game. So yeah, I need to see more from him tonight as well. But hopefully, I'm not sure if the team comes out an hour and 15 minutes before. So if it is an hour and 15, we are literally just a couple of minutes away. Go on.
Well, I think it's imminent, like literally in the next minute. My gut is that Arsenal release it 15 minutes before the hour before the game. So I think it will be out in the next 1, 2, 3 minutes. I'll
definitely save the score prediction till after you've seen the team, mate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, look, for me, it'd be Raya in goal. I've not seen the team, and I've had a couple of inklings. But the only nudge I've had is that Eze is going to start. So I give, and I think you probably would have expected that anyway. I think Raya will play in goal. I think there was a mistake or two in Kepa in the Chelsea game, and I don't think. I think you might just sit this one out. Raya, Timber, Mosquera, Gabriel, Lewis Skelly, Norgard, Marino, Eze, Jesus, Havertz, Saka captain. That would be what I would do. I'm not giving Saka the armband because I want to.
Yeah.
I just think he will be the captain if he starts. But I think that's something that would be the team that I would pick. Something like that.
I think if I was going to pick a team tonight, it'd be Raya.
Here you go. Look, bang on 2:15, and I'm going to give you the team now, Smuggsy. You ready?
Yep, go on.
Raya, Timber, Saliba, Mosquera, Lewis Skelly, Zubimendi, Marino, Eze, Saka, Trossard, Jesus.
Wow. Well, I've got Zubimendi right, but
you did. Yeah, it's a great shout from you. Yeah, so he's not gone. The bench is Kepa, Setford, White, Gabriel, Odegaard, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Norgard, Madueke, Nwaneri, interestingly, Havertz, Rice.
I'm surprised he hasn't given Havertz a start. I've got to be honest, but I guess he feels that this is probably not the game, and I think we'll probably be waiting until next Tuesday now for him to start a game. If I'm being frankly honest, can't see him throwing him in against Manchester United. So I think he's probably looking at that game next week.
I don't think he'll get minutes tonight. I could see him getting half an hour tonight, Havertz.
Yeah,
he's got to build his minutes up, mate. Obviously, he's had two fairly big injuries for us now. In the sense that he was out for quite a long period, and then he got fit again, finished the season, scored on the last day of the season, and then went obviously got back in pre-season, and then scored that brilliant goal in pre-season, and he went over, didn't he, in the first game of the season against United, and then he's had a pretty long injury again. I think that was August, and it's December now, so it's another 4-monther. So he's not really had any match fitness or pre-season, and he loves him, Havertz, Arteta. So I think he's probably going to he's going to have to try and protect him a little bit, and yeah, he's just bedding him in very, very slowly, and just giving him a kick here and there. Where are Inter in? Where are Inter in the? Is their position in the last 8 like all but confirmed? You know, so is
I
this a
think
bit of a
I
dead
think
rubber
they're
for
doing
them as
pretty
well?
well, aren't they?
I thought they were doing well as well.
Let me have a look. I'm sure they're in I thought they were in the top 8, but
I thought they were
yeah,
I thought they were one behind Bayern. They were like right in the mix.
they're 6th at the moment. So
Okay.
that they've got 12 points. So they really need to win this game, because if they don't win this game, there's so many teams that they'll finish in. They'll go well outside the top 8 if they don't win tonight. So it's a massive game for them.
Yeah, City losing to Bodo is not ideal, because like they can be caught by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, Spurs can catch them. Fucking hell. 8, 9. I mean, even if you go all the way down to like Barcelona in 15th, if they win, they're on the same points as City. So, yeah, Inter Milan don't want to lose the game. That's for sure. I don't really think. I mean, I just don't think Arteta approaches games, mate, where he cares like about. I don't think he gets into games where he. I just don't think it's in his psyche to like play a game where like we could bleed goals. I just don't think he allows these guys to be set up in such a way where someone can just walk free in against us. You know, like how City just bled goals and
He'll definitely
chances
want to go
on
out there
on
tonight.
Sunday or
He'll definitely want
Saturday.
to go out there tonight and put a performance in there, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting selection and lineup. Not many surprises for me. I think probably Mascara. Weren't sure whether he'd start him or not, but I think it's the right option. Gabriel's only just come back, so I think it'd be good to give Gabriel some time away before Sunday. I think Declan Rice as well. I think he's resting the key players. Yeah, I think he's gone there, especially when he's playing Mendy. He's gone there to get a result. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he sets up any game where he's like not trying to get a result, does he? You know, he probably wants to set a record for like being 8 from 8 in the knockout phase of the Champions League or something like that. You know, we've only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League, so it's little things like that. He does love all these little mini accolades. So yeah, you know, I think you're probably right. I do hope, mate. I really hope sneakily, actually, mate, he brings Gyökeres into the game in like the 65th minute when if Inter are like chasing a result. You know, I would love to see Gyökeres on the pitch at the end of a game fresh when the opposition are like really chasing a game and need goals and they're open. I just would like to see his movement and whether like the attacking unit finds him in space and can actually get him in a situation where we see him get one of these like bullet shots off where he's like not crowded into a corner under pressure. I just like to see him shoot, you know, because he hasn't scored a goal since Leeds from outside the 6-yard box in open play, I don't think. So
I know it's an incredible record when you think about it, isn't it?
So I haven't just
yeah. Sorry, like, have a crack on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, I actually just thought of that off the top of my head, but I was just trying to think, Smuggo. I don't think he has. He scored, 8 goals, 2 penalties. He scored the goal against Leeds, which was by the penalty spot, like 12 yards out. But I'm trying to think if he scored, I don't think he scored outside the 6-yard box other than that. He scored pretty much a header from close range against Burnley. One went off his old boy from about 3 yards out against Atletico. The other one against Atletico is sort of on the edge of the 6-yard box. He scored from 2-3 yards out against Chelsea. Nottingham Forest, where Eze cuts it back, was maybe 8 yards out, 6 yards out. It is that Fox in the box goal, wasn't it? Then the other Leeds goal was a pen. Everton was a pen. Yeah, I don't think he scored from like more than 10 yards out, mate, getting a shot off.
No, he hasn't. I don't think he has, mate. Incredible, really, when you think about it. And hopefully that changes tonight. But I'm very much what you say. That I'd like to see him come on for 20 minutes, but half hour. Just let him play like an end of a game when the game starts opening up a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd like to see that tonight. Whether it happens or not is another question. But we can only wait and see. Going to go into the Ask Jim segment now. Getting really excited for this because we will be deciding our winner tonight. So just want to thank everyone who's participated so far. But we are going to go into the last lot of questions. So let me get the questions up now for you, Jim. Sorry, mate. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, sounds good.
Just tapping away for all the mess on my X account. And it is a mess. We are struggling here a little bit. Sorry, guys. People would be better doing it this way. What's your prediction as I'm looking for the Man United game Saturday? What are you thinking?
Man United game?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a tight one.
Honestly, two.
You're going to go for a draw?
Desmond.
Oh, Jesus. I think I'm going to go for a win. I think it's going to be do you know what? Right? It could be one of them games, could it, like a 3-2. Or 2-1. I just think that actually, I think it'll be. I think, like you said, Matt. I think Man United will definitely score in this game. And I think with the way Carrick set up against Man City, I don't see him totally reversing that to play a total low block. It wouldn't make sense after that victory. So I think they will come to play. And as you said, I think it might help us, but at the same time, like we do need to be careful. Well, first question, Margaret's saying, playing devil's advocate here, and I'm 100% behind Arteta as a manager, just intrigued for these shows' purposes. If Arteta was to leave, who do you think should take over? If you had to choose anyone, who would be your next Arsenal manager?
Oh, what question? I mean, how do you answer this though, Smugs? Like out of anyone like around, or do you want to do like available gaffers?
I think you have to be I think you have to be pretty much that. It's going to need to be someone who's available in it. Do you know what I mean? Or someone that you think could be a possibility to come into the club and probably take over the reins and probably try and work with a squad that's obviously there at the moment.
I mean, I'd love. I've got a couple of plays here. I'd love Zidane with like Henry on his coaching team. I'd love Henry to get into our attackers, just like unleash some wisdom on them. Obviously he's of great power, Zizou's, and he adores Arsenal, Henry. So I'd love a little mix up like that. That would be pure. I like Lewis, and mate, I can't. It's very often I want to applaud an opponent against us, but like Luis Enrique's PSG last year at the Emirates, one of the best things I've ever seen from an away team ever. And I think I've watched the premium version of Barcelona come to Arsenal. In like around that kind of like late 2000s era with like Messi and Henry, Eto'o, Ibrahimovic, then that goated kind of three in the middle of like Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta. And I have not seen a team play against arguably one of the best Arsenal teams we've seen, definitely in the Emirates era, of, PSG just battered us, mate. I mean, they properly bashed us up. And I'd be very open to that guy. Is it Luis Enrique, their gaffer? So
I would have gone. I would have said Luis Enrique personally. I'm pretty much like you. I like that first 20-minute performance from Paris Saint-Germain at the Emirates is probably the best I've seen. Like I wasn't at the Barcelona game, like when obviously Messi and that turned up, but I just thought that 20 minutes, in that first 20 minutes, I've never seen an Arsenal team get destroyed by pure football like that. They were
Yeah,
out this world, weren't they? They were absolutely out this world, and they done a proper number on us. And look, if we're being honest, yeah, that game should have been 2-3-0 by the end of that game. How it was only 1-0 at the end of that game was was quite fortunate for us at the time that we even went to Paris with something to play for.
it was just everything about it. Like the midfield three, like Fabian Ruiz was a bit of a reprobate, like been passed around a bit. He was top draw. Vitinha was played at Wolves. He was like he looked like the best player on the planet at the time. That Joao Neves was a kid. Looked like
Yeah.
he was a 30-year-old in 21-year-old's body. They bring this Desiree Doué in, never heard of him before. Do you know what I mean? He's like absolutely out of this world. Then Dembele drops off the shoulder, pops in the false nine, plays in the pocket, like plays outside in the wing. Kvaratskhelia, just an animal, Then their two fullbacks are a joke. Donnarumma, that last line of defence, made two massive saves, and he just looked like he had it all on a string. Enrique, like, never really looked flustered, no like flaying arms. Just he was just navigating the whole situation. And it was just very, very impressive. They were just good everywhere. So, I feel like with a squad like we've got, he would be lethal. Yeah, like I said, Zizou and Thierry maybe in the dressing room, that'd be pretty good. Always quite adored. Like first phase of Liverpool under Klopp was really good. I'd like to play. I'd like to play like a high press, like high energy, high press, transitional turnover football, which Klopp's kind of the master at. Very difficult to ever turn around and like say no to Pep. So, yeah. Other than it's all the usual suspects, then, isn't it? At that point, but yeah, Enrique or Zidane, and I think both of them are actually like tangible options. So, good question, Margaret.
Yeah, really enjoyed that question, Margaret. The next question is from Ross White. It's to both of us, but I'm going to let you answer it. Who do you think will be moved on in the summer, and who from the current market would be brought in as replacements and upgrades?
I think you'll see a player sold this summer that will surprise you. As in, like a player that will move on this summer, and I mean, look, Andrew's just said that Bodo Glimt have gone 3-0 up. I mean, Pep might be available next week at this rate.
Sure name, Richard Keys.
I think you'll see a player leave Arsenal this summer. It's just time that someone will leave this summer that will shock. So I've got my eye on that player being one of, if not maybe all of, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Martinelli.
Do you think that potentially we could see a couple go?
Yeah, they're going to have to rotate, mate. They're going to have to we will be really close to far into the line with PSR regulations if we do not generate player sale revenue. Like we have not had, like we got lucky that we've dined out in the last 2 seasons on 3 academy sales in Smith Rowe and Ketia Balogun. But so you on your balance sheet you get sort of 2.5x the valuation because of the fact that there was no cost associated with. So they have like really helped because that's like 90 million quid's worth of incoming capital that looks like about 250. But other than that, we've taken like losses on just about every transfer that we've done, bar that. So we have to have some positive sales come in to be able to kind of like go in the market again. I don't actually think we need a lot, but I can see Hincapi becomes an obligation in the summer. So there's 50 million quid spent already. And I think he'd probably be very close to meeting the criteria of his obligation. And I think they've bought him with the idea of buying him actually permanently anyway, which is probably why they've not stepped in and done anything with Gay when he moved this winter. So I think Martinelli has only got a year left on his contract after this. And if an offer of 35 to 50 million quid comes in, I think the club will really, really seriously consider it. I think if somebody's willing to pay 35 to 45 million quid for Lewis Skelly, I think the club will really consider that.
And that'd be pure profit as well, wouldn't it?
Yep. And Martinelli we bought for 6 million, so that'll be a significant profit. And Odegaard, I could see Odegaard moving for 50 million quid, to be honest. And I don't know where he goes, and he's just had a family, and and I don't, I know we say about Arteta doing ruthless things like kicking Ozil and Aubameyang out and replacing Ramsdale with Raya, but they're few and far between. And I don't think he removes the armband from a captain and keeps the captain in the team.
No.
I just think that is a byproduct of they reset that by moving the player on.
Yeah.
So, in regards to incoming players, I think they'll really significantly look at wide attackers, because you've got Trossard who's turned 31. If Nelly goes, then you've got a need there. I think they'll look for another central midfielder because Norgard will be kind of nearly 31 and he'll probably have one more year, and then they'll just rotate through that. And I think potentially, I don't want to see it, so I didn't say it, but I could see them potentially looking at if they recovered all their money on Ben White, I think they might think about him leaving as well. But I think potentially another versatile fullback could come in. I don't know who the player is, but they may look at that right back area. I think a central midfielder. A lot of people are sort of talking around a player like Adam Wharton or something like that. I just think he costs too much money, and we can't put him in the team. So I don't think he works. But the wide attacker who comes in for me is Rafael Leao. He would be the one that I would absolutely love, and I think he could leave AC Milan if the right offer comes in, and he just looks like such a perfect profile of play. He's electric fast. He's physical. He can play right, left, centre, false 9, 9, 10. So he can play in a load of different positions. I think Arteta would have to teach him how to defend a little bit. And then obviously the other one that, Noel pal of mine, AF Camden, has kind of already come out and announced that we're in the market for is Anthony Gordon. And for those that I was talking to in the summer, like we'd made quite solid inquiries about Anthony Gordon in the summer, so that's not new news. But yeah, Gordon or Leao would like
What's
on
your
the left
thoughts on
wing.
Anthony Gordon?
Pardon?
What's your thoughts on Anthony Gordon?
I quite like him. I think he can play right, middle or left. If I'm being honest, mate, I don't really. I can't really split the divide between him and Martinelli. I find that one quite tough to. I'm not sure he's a great deal better than Martinelli, to be honest. I don't think he raises the level. I think he's good, but I think we need like a world beater on that.
Yeah, I think I'm not dismissing. So I've always liked Gordon as a player ever since he was at Everton. I thought he got a rough deal from Everton fans when he was there, but I think he's a good player. I think he's probably. I think he's maybe crossings better than Martinelli's.
Okay,
but he wouldn't be the upgrade for me. Like for me, I'm with you. Like someone like Leao, you know what I mean, who's going to come in powerful. Do you know what I mean? Make a massive difference. I feel that position is a position that will make us explode.
Yeah, Liao's really two-footed as well. You know, if you ever watch him play or have seen his catalogue of play, you know, for all the guys now who just love watching clips on YouTube, I've actually seen him play quite a lot. But because you know, I watch Portugal a lot. He goes past his man like both sides. He comes inside, he goes left. He's like very two-footed. And he's really tricky, and he is like ludicrously explosive, and I think that we've always wanted, you know, if we could get Martinelli and Trossard to have a baby and create a hybrid, we would be in like a perfect scenario, because like
Yeah.
Trossard's incredibly technical and Martinelli's an elite athlete, and a hybrid of the two is the perfect formula. And I think, just from my naked eye test, I think Liao is probably the closest thing I can think of to being the best of both players.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, no, very good question by Ross there. Thank you very much, Ross. We've got John Brooks asking, how many points are we winning the Premier League by then?
I don't care.
It could be 1 point as long as we win it.
I couldn't give a toss if it's 1 or 100. We just need on that, you know, on that day in May to lift the trophy, and preferably, John, as soon as possible. I'd love the game on April the 18th at City away to be a bit of a dead burner, like it mean nothing. I'm not sure that we'll get that fortunate, but yeah, at the moment everything looks pretty solid, and obviously City are going through a bit of a barren patch in regards to the results, as well as the striker now, who, you know, amazing, isn't it? Like, we're top of the league by 7 points, and everyone still wants to hammer Gyökeres, but because he's already scored 20 goals, Haaland's not scored in 6 or 7, and this, you know, no one mentions it. But yeah, you know, so they're struggling, but I don't know. Yeah, 5, 4.
Yeah. Next question from Georgina Triggs. Thoughts on Ethan moving on loan? Is it the right move for him?
Look, I don't think that Ethan, and I don't think the way in which the club had probably set up his season had probably anticipated at the time buying Eze. That was a pretty quick pivot based on the fact that Havertz got quite a significant injury in the first league game of the season. And when the club then decided to pivot to Eze and bring him in, I think that naturally was to assist with Havertz's injury, but was probably also been detriment to Ethan's minutes when Havertz comes back. And actually probably for him, you know, because obviously the emergence of Max this year, and he came through such an elite pre-season, and then obviously people sort of like, you know, again, this is what I say to you, Smugs, like, people forget so quickly in football, because Ethan had like an amazing 6 months last year and he got like 10, 11, 12 GA. Like, everyone all of a sudden thinks he's like a seasoned pro. He's not long turned 18 himself. So actually, Marseille third in the Ligue 1, going out there, and like, if the club have been smart and they, like, you know, make it mandatory that he gets a considerable amount of minutes, going and playing 6 months in France will probably be amazing for his career. Look, most recently for an attacker, how good it's been for Mason Greenwood. And then one of our own, who went on loan there 2 years and came from Ligue 1 in Saliba, he came back like a really complete player. So there's enough evidence of it being a success story to suggest that it's worth doing. So I'm pro it.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think it's actually a really good move for him. Like we said, like, Saliba went there, didn't do him any harm. I think one area he needs minutes. I think I said, didn't I, about probably a couple of months ago, that I felt that he would go out on loan in January, just because I didn't see the point of him not lingering around. That's the wrong word. I don't want to use that word. Like, being like plotting around and just not really getting the game time. Like, at his age, like, he's got the ability and he's got the capability, and I think it's a good move for him. I think it's a fantastic move for him. Like, Marseille, Are doing well in the French league, like you said. They've got some really good players there. Am I right in thinking that the Timber's going there as well? He's brother.
He just
Um,
signed from today, yeah,
yeah.
Quentin, yeah.
So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now. I think we'll be watching a few more Marseille games, Jim, over
Yeah,
the course at the end of the season.
I'd definitely be watching him. He'd definitely be someone on loan watch who isn't like surplus to requirements, who we couldn't move on a permanent deal. He'd be someone that you generally be watching and just like looking at their evolution and hoping that they come back better, you know? So, yeah, I agree. And then, you know, I hope he, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Aubameyang and Greenwood both play for Marseille. So, you know, he's going to know of Aubameyang. I assume he would have met him at some point. And maybe he knows Mason Greenwood or not, but at least he's then got some English speaking guys in that squad. You know, and he's got a pretty exciting left footed right winger and a striker who wants to get on the end of service. So I think it's a positive move, you know, and he can go and get regular football every 3 or 4 days, and that'd be, you know, it'd be really, really positive and progressive for his, like, mate, he's got like 15, 16, 17, 18 years left in his career. Like, you know, what we doing here? So it's only 6 months, you know, he's got plenty of time to get medals with Arsenal again in the future. Yeah, all right, it's a bit of a shame that he doesn't get a Premier League medal, and but I don't know if he'd have met the criteria. I really don't. Like, as the season gets into the business end, I just can't see where Arteta keeps using him in games. You and I watched enough of him at the start of the year. He come on, he had a really positive impact in the Leeds game, had a really positive impact in the Forest game.
Yep.
But you know, if his time's not right now, that doesn't mean that's his time up. I think it just means that it's just a stepping stone in his development. You look at people like Kane, who like are now like world beaters. You know, went on loan at Millwall, didn't work, went on loan at Norwich or whatever. You know, come back and he's like Spurs' highest ever goal scorer. So it's not a bad thing for going and getting an education. You know, he needs to play senior football.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Next question is from Darius. He's asking you, what would your starting team be against Manchester United?
Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel. I guess it'd have to be Timber if Calafiori and Hincapi are both injured. Zubimendi, Rice, Eza, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Saka.
Interesting. We've got one more question from Andy. Regarding the captaincy, who do you think should be our captain at present? I guess it's more for like after the end of the season.
You know what? I think everyone just like leans towards Rice, and I think he is an incredibly natural leader.
Yeah.
But there's something about Gabriel which just like makes me feel like he is such a natural leader. And actually, it's a two-pronged thing with Gabriel, because I think he is somebody who could potentially be swayed for big money to leave Arsenal. You know, he's 28, maybe nearly 29. I know he's on a good contract at Arsenal, but he is the kind of player who, if someone turned around and said he's going to Saudi for 55, 60 million and they're paying him like £1 million a week, oh, it wouldn't shock me. So I don't want to lose him. I think he's elite. But I think he leads by example. I think he's in and around every single scenario. I think he manages the team most naturally on the pitch. I think he's effective in both boxes. And he has a really, really good affirmation with all the fan base. And I actually think, from noticing it from flying back for games this year, probably his song is the most regularly sung song in the home and away end of games. So I think that just shows the relationship he's got with the fan base as well. So I would probably say you could flip a coin for me with either one of them, but my inkling, just the way I grew up as well, Smuggo, don't get me wrong, like a box-to-box leading midfielder in a Vieira Rice could do that. But Tony Adams was the proper general, and I feel like, our number 6 from Brazil, he would be an amazing club captain.
And that is very much it in terms of your questions. So I just need now, mate, your last winner. And then I'm going to add it into the wheel. Then we're going to share the screen, go live to the wheel, and see who our outright winner is of Ask Jim over the last 6-7 weeks.
I really like the question about the manager, and I really like the question about the captain, and I quite like the question about transfer window. Right, knuckle them down, Smuggsy. So those 3 are the standout ones. Help me out a bit. Which of those 3 did you like?
Ooh. I reckon I like the one about the left wing. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the captaincy one's a good one. So what was the other one, last one? The transfer.
Yeah. No, the other one was about if Arteta left tomorrow, who would you bring in as the gaffer?
Yes. So yeah, that was Margaret. Margaret's already on here. So
all right. So she's already got a ticket in the raffle. Then, we'll go with the other 2.
Do you want to add them both in?
Yeah, I can't split hairs, so add them both in. Yeah.
So, guys, I'm just going to be plotting away behind here quickly to add the last 2 in. So, Andy M goes into the hat, and so does Ross White. So, I'm going to share my screen, and you'll see, hopefully, the wheel come up in a minute. Let me know when you see it, mate.
Yeah, I can see it. Jonesy, Prudy, Margaret, Bilal, Andy. Yeah. And then Ross is coming in now. There we go.
So I believe that's everyone, isn't it?
I believe so. Here we go.
So one of you lucky guys will be winning the ticket any minute now. 1, 2, 3. Here we go.
Ross White.
He's picked it at the post. He's coming at the post and he's won it. Ross White is our Ask Jim winner.
Well done, Ross White.
Congratulations, mate. Absolute well done to you. You are our winner. I will reach out to you. And obviously when Jim can work out some dates and all that, we'll be in touch and let you know.
Congratulations, Ross. Well done, pal.
So that's pretty much it for tonight's show. Obviously, we've got a big game coming up in only 40 minutes' time. So I know it's pretty much getting up to 12 o'clock your time now, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah, it is. It's 20 past 11, mate. These Champions League games are bulldozers for me. Yeah, so it'll kick off at midnight, and I think I'm due probably another round of Beecham's Cold and Flu and some Benadryl, and I will go and rub my eyes for 40 minutes, and then muscle through.
Well, fair play to you, mate, and obviously thank you very much for battling away tonight, mate, coming on the show. I know it's been...
Sorry to anyone who had to hear any splurters or coughs. I was trying to mute in between having coughing fits and such alike, but hopefully it didn't put too many people off.
I'm sure it didn't, mate. They love you. But yeah, obviously, absolutely fantastic show. Thank you for everyone who has joined us in the chat. Anyone who's asked questions as well and who is supported by reposting the show, we absolutely appreciate it. So thank you very much. And yeah, we go to tonight in Milan away. Hopefully, we secure the first top spot, and then big game at the weekend, guys. Manchester United. It don't get much bigger. Good night.
Good night.